Welcome to my theory-based teaching and learning project. The skill that I will be teaching is how to perform a manicure. This is a list of ordered steps that the learner needs to follow in order to perform a successful manicure procedure. The desired outcomes are not only to perform a manicure, but to also know what tool or products are needed to be used during each step. The learner has never done a manicure on himself or on anyone else before. He has never really done anything with his nails except for occasionally clipping his nails. This task is in his zone of proximal development because since he knows how to use a nail clipper, he can also know how to use other tools and products to further manage his nails with the help of his teacher. The instructor has been practicing doing manicures for a while, loves anything beauty related, and is very confident that she could teach this skill to someone who has never done nails before because she was once in the same position. The first teaching strategy uses the social cognitive theory. This theory is a good fit because learners can learn new skills by observing others and slowly start to do the same task on their own. When showing the video of a manicure, the learner is able to get a concise summary of all the steps needed to perform the task and can visually see the steps being done through the screen. The live model is a good way for the learner to see the task being done in front of them and can ask the instructor to clarify any questions. We can see here in the clip that I'm showing a video and then moving on to the live modeling. So this is a demonstration I'm doing on the learner, telling him step by step what I'm using and the techniques that I use for each step. So this is when I'm telling him like how to use the tool, how to push back the cuticle, and to clean each nail. You can see that the learner is paying attention and focusing and asking questions whenever he needs clarification. So now this is the part where he is using the knowledge that he just learned and applying it. You can see that there's a little confusion, so he has some doubt. Now he double checks with the instructor to see if the step is right. The instructor and learner are engaging every step of the way so the learner can understand the procedure. The learner was able to pay attention throughout the whole lesson. However, he preferred the live model over the video because he felt more engaged with the instructor. The learner did remember most of the steps when repeating the process on the instructor's hand. He did struggle and ask the teacher for clarification at times. The video was harder to retain the information because it was not hands-on like the demonstration. The learner was able to use the implements and products correctly during each step. The learner was more motivated to complete the task after hearing the live model go in depth about the steps and was more excited to use each product. The video motivated him less because he could not get immediate clarification if needed. The next teaching strategy will use Sociocultural Constructivism. Sociocultural Constructivism is about teaching new skills that are in the learner's zone of proximal development with the help of the teacher. Scaffolding is a great strategy to help learners evaluate their learning and use the resources to refer when they need clarification. In this clip, I'm giving the learner paper of instructions as a scaffold. And like a classroom, I encourage the learner to try to do it by himself and refer to the paper if needed, and to ask questions to the instructor if the paper isn't a good enough scaffold. You see that there's a little doubt to what step is next, so the learner is referring back to the scaffold to refresh his memory. The learner was able to complete each step of the manicure and use the scaffolding as a tool for him to complete the procedure. This strategy was not as effective as a live model because the learner did not seem as engaged or motivated to complete the task. He did go through all the steps, but the task seemed a little bit simple for the learner. So if I were to reconstruct the lesson again, I would use dynamic assessment to make the lesson a bit more challenging, like adding a new task or painting nails. The last strategy uses information processing theory. Information processing theory helps the instructor think about how effective the lesson should be to help them retain the skill in their long-term memory. With practice and constant processing, the learner can change their declarative knowledge to procedural knowledge as we become more experienced. Chunking and organization are great tools to use when mastering a skill. The instructor can organize the lesson in chunks so the learner can relate and apply certain steps that make sense. And soon they can recall the information and skills because of this organization. In this clip, we see the instructor using chunking as a way to organize her lesson into 3 chunks. So 1 is setting up a nail prep, 2 is using products to perfect the nail, and 3 is aftercare. Later, she gives the learner the paper to look through the lesson and organize his thoughts before he gets tested 3 hours later. Now after 3 hours, we come back and we test how good his memory is. So throughout this whole test, he's not asking the instructor any questions and knows exactly what he's doing. So we could see that after 3 hours doing unrelated things, the learner understood and recalled the information to perform this skill. We can conclude that the learner's information was processed in his long-term memory. We could see that during this test, he seemed more confident and more relaxed. He did a great job. The learner was able to perform a manicure with no help from the instructor, and even after 3 long hours, the student still recalled the steps. The learner was able to remember and relate each step to the chunks that were taught during the lesson. Overall, the learner had fun learning this new skill and was able to achieve it with the help of the instructor. And so this skill was in his zone proximal development, but he was able to achieve it to his actual development level. There are definitely some things needed to be changed in the lesson, and if I were to go back, I would make sure the video, paper instructions, and live demonstrations all have the same steps of how to do a manicure because it did confuse the learner a little bit. But I am proud that I was able to successfully teach a skill to a learner that has never done nails before.